Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Last Best Hope for Conversation, your Babylon 5 podcast. Joining me today is Lou.
Hello, everyone.
And the podcast mom, Karen.
Hello. Joining you today and every other day.
That's right. Us. Absolutely. We are here to talk the episode A Voice in the Wilderness, Part 1, Season 1, Episode 18.
Please don't lose this one because I want to watch the second part of this really a lot. Guys,
okay.
Absolutely.
I
yes.
deserve that.
No. Was it a dig?
Delenn's old friend and mentor, Draal, arrives on the station at the same time that an extinct civilization is found on the planet that Babylon 5 orbits. A revolt against the Earth Alliance breaks out on Mars. So, Lou, you have been asking, hey, what's the deal with this planet down there?
Yeah.
Are you a little bit happy that they finally addressed it?
Kind of. Because they still just call it the planet.
Yes.
So I don't think they ever said in the episode that it's Epsilon 3, right? Because I'm reading the summary here and it calls it Epsilon 3. And I go, oh, okay, that's nice to know. But it's just weird that they're circling this, or I don't know if they're circling it or if they're just stationary but near it. But they must be there because it's always in the background. So they must be in orbit around it, right? Like they can't. They don't explain that, and that makes it weird. But and they're sending a survey team down because it sounds like they haven't explored this planet. Like I find it hard to believe that if they're building a space station, you wouldn't use this planet as like a base of operations or something to store materials and whatnot. So I'm glad they've gone there, but I'm still really puzzled about the handling of this planet. It's almost like it's there's a planet here. We better go take a look at it.
I think that they went because there was seismic activity.
Yes, I know, but
yeah, but why not before then? I know.
How long did it take to build a station? Somebody must have gone there before.
Well, they do mention that they were told by whomever that it was uninhabited and stable and all that. And again, it's just a passing comment. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm on the same page as you when it comes to that. Why didn't they explore it a little better? So, yeah, I get that.
I do not think they addressed that later. In my mind, it was just that they did scans and there was no sign of life and it was a dead planet. And so they've just left it because there's been no activity. And then with this change, they were like, oh, well, we should go check this out. So I agree with you. That is a hole in would you've already done this? But
and it would make a good emergency backup location. If something goes wrong with the space station, okay, we can shuttle everybody down to this holding area where they can stay until we fix the problem or whatever, or until rescue comes. But they just, it's just, I'm just too pragmatic, I guess, sometimes.
So we have a couple storylines going on to this episode. Let's go with Garibaldi first. There's been talking on and off this all season that people on the Mars colony are not happy. So I get the feeling, right, that Mars colony is the American colonies and Earth is the United Kingdom, right? That is England at the time. So there's been some unrest and all of a sudden war has erupted. The colony is attacking, trying to get their own freedom. And that upsets Michael because he used to be stationed on Mars. And we find out that he was in love with Elise Hampton, which was his one true love. But as usual, he screwed things up. So Lou, let's start with you. Thought on the Mars revolt. And we find out that Garibaldi has a soft spot in his heart for an old flame.
Well, again, in a show that likes to lay a lot of breadcrumbs, this came out of left field, this whole relationship.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hadn't made a passing comment to Sinclair during one of their quieter moments in one of the previous episodes, because Sinclair obviously knew about it, because as soon as Susan mentioned it to him, they both knew that it would impact Garibaldi, and we're kind of going, okay, he was on Mars, but so what's the big deal? He left under bad circumstances was the inference. So the fact that he had this previous relationship, it just felt a little clunky. I think it could have been better incorporated in the show, but once it's there, okay, you have to accept it and go with it. But the other thing that put me off from going into that storyline, like, was his first scene in the elevator. Like, what the hell was that about? Like, is he stalking her, or like, I don't get it, or is he just like to screw around with the Psi Corps in general?
Yeah.
So that was a very weird scene that never got a payoff, at least in the part one. Maybe in part two it will, but right now I'm going like, Garibaldi, are you stalking her? Like, what's the deal here? So maybe Karen's got the inside track on this shipping pool. I don't know, but that was a weird scene. I didn't get that at all.
I do wonder if we rewatched, and I wish I'd thought about this, like, did they set that up that every time she went to an elevator, was he there?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it would be, because they would not have put that reference in if they fit on a rewatch. You couldn't go, oh yeah, damn sure right, he does show up every time. I don't know the purpose of that either.
It's only been 2 times.
Okay.
But both times Talia has gotten into the lift, he's been in there.
Okay.
Because he hit on her the first time, and then they had a stressful conversation the second time. Mm-hmm. So I thought this was just like a funny throwaway scene. And yeah, he might be poking at Talia a little bit, like, haha. Yeah. I know where you are.
His expression when the doors opened was like he was saying, haha, I got you again. Thing. Like, it wasn't like a surprise. It was like he purposely intended to stalk her. Like, I just, it was just a weird scene. So getting beyond that, it was interesting that he had this relationship, and I kind of liked it, but it was cliche as well. I don't know. It just didn't land with me properly. And in general, this episode didn't land with me properly. Like, there's just a couple of clunky moments, and with the lead scientist, geologist guy, he's going, well, we're going to go back tomorrow. We're going to check it all out. And aren't you worried? He says, well, you got to sacrifice yourself in the name of science. And I'm going, like, seriously, dude? Like, I'm going to call my family. And the next moment, it's like, I don't know. It just didn't. It just was off-putting too often for me. Once we got past the start and got into the mystery of the planet, that was a little bit more interesting. But this was one of the clunkier starts, especially if you compare it to the previous episode that we just reviewed, Legacies, which is like, Gate, you're engaged. Here, I kept on going, like, what the hell?
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta say, I enjoyed it more. But I agree that the scientist was wonky. Although we have seen 2 previous iterations of people, explorers, or 3. It might have been 3 if we talk about Grail. Explorers that are zealous in their quest for knowledge. So it's not too out of left field, but I did think that he pushed it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what he reminded me of? You know, the first Star Trek reboot movie, the 2009, when Kirk and Sulu and that other guy are going to jump down the parachute to that mining platform, and that one guy is like super, okay, let's go. Yeah, I'm gotta go, gonna kill some Klingons, blah, blah, blah. And then he ends up dying. And it's like, this scientist came off like that. So
he's a red shirt. I mean, definitely he was a red shirt. I mean, if you didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Well, I was expecting this guy to get killed, but he wasn't. So
This guy, you mean this guy in Babylon 5? Yeah, me too. So it made me surprised when later on Sinclair and Ivanova go down.
Right.
That they already knew that they could get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But I did see on the Lurker's Guide that it would have been standard to send officers if there was like a first contact situation happening. So it explains that a little bit, but I thought when I watched it, why would they send them down if there's some kind of peril in just getting onto the planet?
Yeah.
And I did think that scientist was unlikable for one thing, to put himself and the other people in danger, like seriously in danger, where they had to get towed back to Babylon 5.
Yeah.
And to be raring to go again, you'd think, maybe I'll take some precautions.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm getting the feeling, Jesse, you're a little surprised by our reactions, or?
No, not at all. I
Okay.
remember thinking, oh, this is a good two-parter. And then I watched the first one. I went, okay, it's okay. I mean,
yeah,
we do find out about the planet. We see a little bit. I know that Mars is important down the road, but yeah, I agree with you guys. It's okay.
Maybe when you put both episodes together, maybe it seems better in your mind.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to watching the second part of this.
And
hoping to get a little more resolution.
Yeah. And the other weird thing is, because we haven't touched on that storyline, but it's that the other Minbari that comes on the station, Draal, he asks the guy, he says, "Where's Delenn?" And he says, "Oh, right this way." But then we don't see the guy for like 20 minutes. It took him that long to get from the arrival area to Delenn's quarters. Again, it's just this. Everything was really clunky in this episode.
Yeah,
and I just can't get around all that stuff. If it was one thing, you go okay, but it was like this and then this and then this, and I'm going, come on, guys, let's get our act together. What's going on here?
We do find that Draal, who is one of Delenn's favorite teachers, a mentor to her, comes and he's ready to move on. And they called it go to the sea. But basically, it feels like he no longer has anything to live for. He's tired and he's ready to pass on. And she is unhappy about that. She doesn't want to see him go. And we get some nice banter back and forth between him teasing her and her teasing him back. So thoughts on that relationship? And Karen, start with you.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to see her with one of her heroes, like interacting, and to see that she was sad, but understanding why he said that. And I know you guys don't watch it, but The Good Place.
I watched The Good Place. I love it.
Okay. Yeah. So at the end, when Chidi is describing what death, like final death would be, he says, well, the wave comes in to shore and it's in one state and then it goes back out to the ocean. The ocean isn't different, but the wave is gone. Mm-hmm. So he makes that reference to the sea, in that if you return to the sea, you're still, that essence is still there, but the sea has changed. Yeah. So I really like that, especially with the Good Place analogy in my head. Yeah. I like that reference. And I keep thinking like Elephant Graveyard or something, where they go out to a certain place. And I'm just assuming the sea is like heaven. Yeah. And that he may not go to a specific place, but he's ready to tie up his life. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was poignant. And Delenn wants to keep him there as long as possible so that he'll still be in her life. And she seems gutted that she won't. She actually says, so when you leave here, I will never talk to you again. And that's very upsetting to her. So I was touched by that part of the storyline. And I did have that thought that I'm like, how long did it take him to get there? Because it was very long between the guy showing him to Delenn's quarters and him actually showing up. Were they not running concurrently, the storylines? Were they like rewinding a little bit to go back? So that was kind of discordant. But I did like the storyline in general.
Mm-hmm.
Lou, thoughts?
Yeah, but when he said go into the sea, that my first thought was the Grey Havens from Lord of the Rings. But so that was interesting. I think what's really like the fact that he's going to do that and that Delenn's unhappy about that on a personal level is one thing. But the greater thing is he mentions that he's doing that because he's no longer happy what's happening with Minbari, which ties into the discussion that we had on our previous podcast about the whole caste system and whatnot, and something with Sinclair and the Minbari going on there. So I think that's a bit of a lantern again, that there's some sort of civil unrest, Bari, or they're seeing themselves heading to towards some sort of social confrontation or upheaval. And this character is basically confirming that, yeah, things are not going well for the Minbari. So I thought that was interesting. And that was what I took away from that, mostly from their interactions.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that things are not going well on Minbari. There is some unhappiness. We know that the warrior caste is unhappy that they gave up and surrendered to the humans. We don't know why. Now then we're hearing that there's a lot of other unrest. We have unrest in Mars, so there is a lot of things coming to boil, so to speak, that our character is involved with.
Do you mind if I say that quote?
Sure, please.
Okay, because I looked it up.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say why.
Yeah.
He says, picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it, its height, the way the sunlight refracts when it passes through, and it's there. And you can see it. You know what it is. It's a wave. And then it crashes in the shore and it's gone. But the water is still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be for a little while. You know, it's one conception of death for Buddhists. The wave returns to the ocean, where it came from and where it's supposed to be. I think that's poignant.
I do too.
So anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like this episode because of the little moments.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there is a scene where G'Kar isn't there, but Londo and Delenn and Commander Sinclair are all negotiating, and Londo makes a comment about it's so much better without the Narn. And he says, physics tell us that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. They hate us, we hate them, they hate us back, and so we are victims of mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
That idea of like, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy that the wheel is spinning, and all to Game of Thrones, no one is going to break the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
That this is the way it is. They hate us, we hate them, and they are never going to give up. That we stripped their planet for all that's good when we controlled them. They're never going to forgive that back and forth. So I think that's a great moment that tells us more about why there is so much hate between these two races. Any thoughts?
Well, I loved all of Londo in this episode.
Yeah.
Because we get the beat with him talking about G'Kar.
Yeah.
Which was like, never the twain shall meet philosophy. Yeah. We get him with Delenn and Draal, where he does you put your right foot in, you take your right foot out.
Yes.
It means nothing.
Yes.
Where he's getting very frustrated that it's just, a frivolous song that everyone knows. Yeah. Why would everyone know this stupid little song? Yeah. And then we have the beat where he cheers up Garibaldi. And I love that little kissed her and made her feel better. And Garibaldi's like, I don't want you to kiss me.
Yeah.
But it was a nice beat where you could see, we've seen that dynamic between the two of them a couple times. But in this episode, it was a little more fleshed out, where Londo is sympathetic to Garibaldi, and I said this before, like two sides of the same coin.
Yes.
They're similar, but different enough that Londo can use his qualities to cheer Garibaldi up or to identify with him. And I really liked that little beat. And I think Londo was he was the most entertaining in this episode of all the characters.
Yeah, Peter Jurasik as Londo, we'll talk about him, and then I want to talk about Susan a little bit, but they had the best lines and scenes in this episode. I think if you go back, those are highlights that why people may love this episode because of these different character beats.
Yeah.
Peter Jurasik is amazing. I love his, oh, my good friend. It's always, he always gives that my good friend or my dear Delenn. He always has an adjective ahead of it. And he talks about that, right? Like, it's whatever it is, it cannot be that bad.
Yeah.
Then she kissed me. And then he's like, oh, I woke up and I was like, oh, I married her. And then I went, oh, what did I do? It's like this whole, I was drunk. We were in Vegas. Everything seemed like a good die. And then when I woke up, I went, oh my goodness, what have I done? So that's a really nice moment. And him, I have gone. It's now my joy. It is now my duty to spread joy. It is my burden. And then as he walks off, Garibaldi's looking and the bartender's like, hey, you didn't pay for that drink. And he just nods his head.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. Who's going to pay for that drink? And Garibaldi's like, oh.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
He got me again.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, any thoughts about Garibaldi? And then I do want to say there is no purpose to the hokey pokey except to have fun. And then I love Delenn's friend. I actually like this song, right?
Yeah. Don't tell him that.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that was perfect.
I like that scene, but I just found it weird that was the song that they picked. Like, I thought he was going to say happy birthday or something like that. Because who sings the hokey pokey nowadays? I don't know.
Yeah, but everyone knows it.
Yeah, but he says like half their people sing it all the time. I'm going, really?
Right. Yeah, we don't really.
That was weird.
But I will tell you, if you're ever in Dallas, Texas, or in somewhere, there is a Babe's Chicken, which is an amazing restaurant. It's a local chain where everything is served family style. So you order your entree, and so they have fried chicken, roasted chicken, catfish, chicken tenders, and then it's all you can eat sides. They have mashed potatoes, salads, green beans, and biscuits. But they have a jukebox, and when the hokey pokey comes on, all the servers stop and all the kids get in a circle and they do the hokey pokey.
Okay.
I think I might hate that.
I think so. It
The
might be
food
cute once.
Yeah, the food is amazing. Well, they don't play it all the time, but enough that if you're there there's a good chance that you will see it. Probably like every third or fourth trip.
Well, I can only assume that JMS must have been to that restaurant. Otherwise, I don't see how that ended up in the episode.
Yeah.
And he didn't sing it exactly right, which made me laugh. Yeah. You put your right foot in. It
I would
was
like
funny.
to see him do the monster mash.
Right. Yeah, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
It was funny either way because he was digressing where Delenn was like, oh, okay, we'll just leave you alone. And he's like, no. I'll make us tea because he wanted to have this dialogue with the mentor. And they were ready to go, but he finally said, no, I'll drop it. And then the beat between Delenn where she says, don't tell him.
Yes.
You thought it was funny. Yeah. It shows that they know each other.
Yes.
That Londo interacts with everyone. And I think he does that. That's one of his functions that he takes on himself is that he wants to spread joy. He wants to make people happy. And if he manages to get his standing in, on Centauri back, then good.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he tries to brighten the mood wherever he goes. But I really liked him in this.
Yeah, I did want to read because this follows up with what you said, Karen. JMS had said Londo and Garibaldi really are two sides of the same coin in some ways. There's an odd friendship there, almost grudgingly. Londo had little to gain by cheering up Garibaldi, except a drink, perhaps, but that's what friends do.
Right.
So, yeah, I thought that was a really neat scene.
Mm-hmm.
I love, because Susan is one of my favorite characters, and the whole idea where the survey ship screwed up and didn't do what he wanted. And she says, upon arrival, you report for debriefing. And just one more thing, on your trip back, I want you to take time to learn the Babylon 5 mantra. Ivanova is always right. I will listen to Ivana. I will not ignore Ivanova's recommendations. Ivanova is God. And this ever happens again, Ivanova will personally rip your lungs out. Babylon control out. And then she says civilians. And then she looks up. Just kidding about the God part. No.
Yeah. Sorry, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that Ivanova is God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thoughts on, and then Susan also, the other nice thing is where he says, why are you saying that out loud? She goes, it's a Russian thing. When we're about to do something stupid, we like to catalog the full extent of our stupidity for future reference.
Right.
So Lou, talk to me a little bit about Susan and her wonderful dialogue. Or you may not think it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's great character beats within this episode, which saves it because the overall structure is so clunky. But yeah, Susan was great in this episode. She also had that other line about when the guy said, scientist said that he wanted to go back and take the risk in that, and she says, "Is that a multiple choice question? Because I could come up with some other alternatives or something like that." That was another good beat for her. So
yeah,
she's really good in this episode until they go down to the planet, and then we'll talk about that. But
okay.
Yeah, she just had a lot of great beats in this episode, and same as Garibaldi with Londo, and Londo with Delenn. So it was a relay race where they were handing off the character beat baton between them, and I really liked that. I did like the beat between Delenn and Londo about the fact that the Centauri and the Narn are so mortally opposed to each other, and that she's holding out hope that they will someday reconcile. I don't know, like if it's probably not parallel, but there's parallel threads going between the Narn and the Centauri and the Minbari and the humans that I might have some payoff down the line. I'll have to see about that, because the relationship between the Minbari and Earthers is it the same as it is between because outside of Sinclair, how do most humans think of the Minbari race?
I'm sure they're still afraid of them. I don't know.
Yeah. So so I think there are parallels going on there. That one thread, maybe the Narn Centauri thread, will be used as a mirror for the other thread, and whatever cross-pollination there is between all races is a totally different story.
You put something in my head just now that I didn't even think of. Did the Grey Council have anything to do with Londo and Jakar being stationed there?
That's a good question.
Because we know that Londo and Jakar have had interactions in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, did she put them there on the station in order to facilitate more harmony between them? Because we already know that the Grey Council has power over whatever happens on the station because they helped fund it. And they wouldn't allow it unless Sinclair was put there. Now, was there something going on in the background where they also wanted Londo and Jakar? And also, they apparently, at least Londo, wasn't expecting to be sent anywhere. He was expecting to languish in his obscurity. And then by surprise, they sent him there. So now, and it's just that Lou said something that sparked it in my mind. And now I'm going to be thinking about that forever.
That's a great question. I agree. That's a wonderful question. Let's talk about the whole, because Garibaldi is so worried about his former girlfriend that he goes to Talia and says, "Hey, I know you guys have a secret base." What? Well, I know these things. Okay. Can you guys use that to find out? And then sure enough, when they go like, how does he have that? Look, let's get past that. Well, look, if we use this, we would admit that he knows. So there was a lot of this whole, I thought that was a little fun back and forth, but they determined that they think she's dead. And it turns out she isn't. So let's go ahead and finish that.
Wait a minute.
Whoa.
Spoiler.
Yes. Spoilers.
Uh-oh.
Shit, that's right.
Well, I kind of thought
I assumed that she might be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she is missing.
Okay, thank you.
He is convinced, right? Okay.
Right.
So they imply that she's dead because she wasn't injured.
Right.
But I didn't infer that.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have inferred that. Definitely. It doesn't mean anything if she's not injured, right?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't mean she's dead. She could also be just alive and not injured.
Yes.
So, and it didn't clear anything up for him.
Yeah. No.
He still doesn't know anything about her, because that could also be faulty information if people are getting injured every 10 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they didn't help him very much, but I did enjoy the fact that he knows everything. He makes sure to have all the valuable information. And he didn't exert it over the Psi Corps that he knew this, because they didn't know that he knew. But yeah, he leaves it until he needs that to put that information out there, which I think is very cool. He's not a flaunter.
Mm-hmm.
He is an opportunist when it comes to the information he knows. So, and I think that's his last resort, that he can't get a line down to Mars. And so he says, okay, I have this. I have Talia, who's in the Psi Corps, and I know about this. So I'm going to push on that and see if they can help me. And I think he knows that they won't go out of their way, but if they can get any morsel of information, that'll help. And I also think it's a deepening of his character, where we know he was an alcoholic and he drowned himself because of the war. I'm guessing a PTSD situation. And that was the main reason for, number one, leaving when Sinclair called him to be on Babylon 5, and also ruining his relationship with Lise. And it's heartbreaking to see him in a place where he isn't normally. He's normally very confident, cocky. He knows what he's doing, even when he doesn't know all the information.
Right.
So it was another facet to his character, which I liked.
So let's talk about, there was a little bit of online that Commander Sinclair and Ivanova should not have gone together. Like, who's left? And I did wonder who had the bridge, right? Like, who was in charge of the command. I'm not sure who is the third in command.
Hopefully not that dude that didn't realize the guns weren't powered up.
Yeah. I don't think we've established that well enough, because I would not think as head of security, Garibaldi would be in that chain of command, right? So
although Worf was.
Yeah.
Worf was like fourth in command on the bridge, and he was head of security. But again, that's
I actually assumed Garibaldi was in command, because he was on the bridge when they lost contact. But I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know that answer. So JMS is like, look, this is important. It's first contact. The last time they had a first contact, everything went to hell in a handbasket. We're going to go. So let's talk about Jeffrey and Susan hitting the planet and what happened. And Lou, let's start with you.
Well, the clunkiness continues.
Okay.
The whole thing, we're going to fly into this chasm and you guys are going to shoot missiles at missiles while we're flying down. It's like, yeah, okay, if that's the way you got to do it, like, why don't you come in from the other side of the planet and come along the ground where the missiles can't fire up at you? Like, I don't know why they had to make a direct approach. So again, that is that. Then they get into the place, and maybe I just not misremembering it, or I'm just becoming hypercritical at this point, but I don't remember there being any airlock doors or anything like that. So they're walking around on a barren planetoid, and they're just wearing breather masks. It's kind of like that scene from Empire Strikes Back when Leia and Han are inside that space worm, and they're just walking around with masks on. I'm going, okay, so you need a spacesuit that's not pressurized or anything like that. And then I have the same issues here. So the payoff is that, of course, there's this amazing underground city or complex there that's going on in that, which is cool. And you're wondering why it's just becoming activated now, because if people had been, again, building that space station, you think somebody might have flown over the planet and it might have activated the defenses back then, but I don't know. So maybe those questions are answered in the second part. And then it kind of goes into a Spock's brain scenario where this alien's hooked up to all these pipes and things, which I assume was running the complex in some manner. So unhooking him from it could have been dangerous. Could have stopped the whole planet or the whole complex from working properly. It might have blown up, or who knows. But so it's all, I need to see the second part, and I hope it answers these questions properly. But right now I'm just going like, okay, this is a cool idea, but the implementation of it is not working for me.
Karen?
Yeah, I got more of a Matrix vibe, where people are hooked up to as some sort of battery, which I know has been like discussed a million times ad nauseum about the Matrix, that it wouldn't be efficient to have human beings powering anything. because they don't have enough energy. But who knows about this guy? There was something not normal about it because he asked for help. So did they abandon the planet and leave him here to run it in their absence? He seems to be the only alien, at least from what they've seen. And yeah, they run in to save him without knowing what's going to happen, which I think at least Ivanova would
have a Russian proverb.
Right. Or be hesitant about it.
Yeah.
Where we know that Sinclair has had these visions of him saying, help me. It's not the same for Susan. So why would she rush in? I could see why Sinclair would.
Yeah.
But that's interesting point too, is that Sinclair is seeing this guy, which again, I'm going to quote, reference another thing is Tholian Web, where Kirk is warping in and out of interdimensional space, whereas this guy is doing the same thing. But I think that this is maybe something to do with some sort of latent ability that Sinclair might have, because he's the only one that's seeing this alien, which is interesting. Because I think the only time Susan sees it is when she's with Sinclair. So why did this alien make himself known to Sinclair is interesting as well. So that's another, I think that's another lantern thing that we should keep track of. But yeah.
I think I think those are all well said, because it is a little interesting, right? Like, why is he showing and what's going on? And I had the same question. Why are you just pulling that person out without thinking, is it going to hurt himself? Is there going to be what's going on with that?
Right. And they're underground in this environment that's already shown seismic activity. So what's going to happen if I disconnect them? Are we going to die? So that would be something that I'd worry about. And like Lou said, how did he know that Sinclair would be the action guy? How many other people are on Babylon 5 that would have been more relevant, and they aren't? I mean, Sinclair is the relevant one. What did he sense?
Like, why didn't this guy show himself to Talia?
Right. Or anyone else. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts on the episode?
Well, it ended on a good cliffhanger, I guess, because we don't know what came through the gate. So that will be interesting to find out in the next episode. Maybe it's tied to this unhooking of this alien.
Yeah.
So maybe it sent off some sort of distress signal or alert signal to the race that set this thing up. So that will be interesting to find out.
Or is it the shadow guys?
Any speculation?
Weren't they all like
I don't know. The shadow guys, maybe. I don't know.
That was the scavengers.
No, the scavengers were the other. They destroyed the scavengers.
Yeah.
The raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mystery. And again, I want to see what happens with them.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I think this was, it's always tough to grade a two-parter because they're flat telling you we're only giving you half the story. But for what it's worth, I'm going to give this 7 out of 10 drinks at a bar, mostly because of the character moments we got, not necessarily the story. How about you, Lou?
Yeah, I think I'm in that range. I did want to mention that Karen already brought up is I did like the fact that whoever this person is, this Lee Stephen or Hampton to Garibaldi, is obviously very important that he would give up the fact that he has this knowledge of this Psychor base on Mars.
I had not thought about that. Yeah,
I knew that from that this character must be important to him for him to give up that information, because he obviously would use that card much later for something way more important than that. So that was also a good character beat. But there's a lot of clunkiness here, which undermines a lot of the overall enjoyment of the episode. Besides the great character beats, so I'm going to give it like 7. I don't know what I want to go here with. 7 Forbidden Planets. What is that machine called? Krylon machine or whatever it is. I'll go with that.
Okay, very nice. That is a direct homage.
Okay.
They said to that, yes.
Okay. And Jesse, you stole mine. I was going to say free drinks. I'm going to give it 7 Hokey Pokeys.
Oh, I love it. Very nice.
That's good.
Cool. So we probably do not have any feedback on the YouTube channel, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we do have a couple of emails. Did you get them, Karen?
I did.
Or Voice of the Wilderness? Okay.
Yeah. Andrew hasn't written in yet because we didn't air the legacies yet.
Right.
But we do have Holly and Nathan. Holly says things are really starting to heat up and we find out more about Garibaldi's background. Talia asking how he knew about the Psy-Corps project when it's supposed to be classified. And his response to her was classic and had me chuckling. Trust me, if there's something for Garibaldi to find out about, he will find out about it. Wowza, Ivanova. Tell them how you feel about the team disobeying your orders on that mission. Londo's little talk with Garibaldi was quite interesting and probably what he needed to hear at the moment and knowing when, like Londo said, he needed a friend. Okay, this is starting to get a bit creepy. First, Sinclair seeing the guy fading in and out, asking for help, and now Londo. Is this something from the past coming to warn them or a message from the future? Guess we'll find out sooner or later. What exactly did Ivanova and Sinclair wind up finding when they landed? And even more pressing question is who built it and what is it meant for? Londo trying to figure out if there's any meaning about the hokey pokey and it being what it is all about had me chuckling. Looking forward to see part 2 so that to see how this all wraps up. Holly from Wisconsin. So thank you, Holly.
Yes, thank you, Holly. Always love your insights. And I love the fact that she types as she gets the
as she's
reaction.
Watching. Yeah.
That always makes for really
because
fun.
I see parallels in like what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
To what it's refreshing to see that.
Yeah.
Now Nathan has given us feedback and he says, for me, this episode is an attempt at something bigger, which does not quite work. Lots of good moments, interesting premise, but it lacks something for me. More energy, another secondary storyline, more tension. I don't know. As one Drag Race alumna has said, something else, do my eyebrows, something else. I like that he pulled in RuPaul's Drag Race. That's
yes, that
great.
is awesome.
My strongest suspicion, it's the pacing and Garibaldi that weigh a great episode down to being merely good. We've seen this before. Nathan has mentioned that he's not a fan of Garibaldi.
That is correct.
So that does color his sentence
Yes.
a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there were bits and pieces that weighed it down. So many great moments happen here. Delenn's conversation with Londo and Sinclair during negotiations. Londo and Sinclair's exchange that ends with, this was good too. But will you tell me? No. Whatever it is, it can't be that bad. Gag. Londo's confusion with the song and the Minbari's usual wise look beyond the surface, coupled with being polite, now iconic Babylon 5 mantra. Ivanova is noticing things in the absence of news from Mars is a great small moment that shows not just a competent officer, but someone who's smart. With regards, me.
Thanks, Nathan.
Nathan.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's great. Great feedback. Good. Any comments on those?
Yeah, I forgot that whole when Londo goes to Sinclair, when he hears that they're exploring the planet. Will you tell me? And Sinclair just gives him a flat no.
Yeah, that was a good beat.
Yeah.
Another good character beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is. Yes, I agree. All right. So we'll wrap us up. Next week, like I said, a little behind the scenes, we are going on a family vacation, my wife and I, so we will not record for the next couple of Sundays. And then we will be back to talk A Voice of the Wilderness Part 2. So looking forward to doing the second half. You guys do not have to wait for 2 weeks. Go ahead and watch it.
Thank God.
Yes.
We just dropped our discussion of devs,
Right.
didn't
That's
we?
right. Yesterday, as of this recording. So on Saturday, we dropped that, and those are all up there. And shortly, Jesse will have them up on the regular podcast feed if you don't do YouTube.
Yeah.
All 4.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it. So far,
Guess you guys were afraid that I probably lost those too, right?
No, not at all.
So far, the lead from Devs has not had a lot of great scenes in House of Dragons, but she is in there. She had one decent scene on the second episode.
Oh, Lily?
So,
Yeah, but that's
Lily you're talking about?
Lily.
From
Yeah.
Devs? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're only 2 episodes in. So.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh,
I can't wait
yes.
until you guys review the final season so I can make sure whether I'm going to watch it or not.
Yeah. Very nice. Yes, you are. I am doing a Small Council Matters on the Tuning into Sci-Fi TV feed where I, Wendy, Sean, and Christine are breaking down the House of Dragon 1 episode at a time. As they release it, we're talking about it. So you can check that if you want to hear me talk about that. Set Listing Bruce was my first episode, was in September 2015. So this is my 7th birthday, and I will hit episode 900 sometime in September.
Wow.
So that's a
Congratulations.
lot of boss talk.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's unbelievable.
That is a lot of boss talk. And so please check those out. Lou, if someone wants to reach you, how can they?
You can find me on the YouTube at Lou's Reviews. Keep an eye out for an upcoming Stephen King podcast where me and Karen will be reviewing the latest Stephen King release, which is Fairy Tale, coming out this September 6th. So we will be recording that a week from today and looking forward to that. As to all the other stuff, as Jesse mentions, Devs, Midnight Mass, my writers' interviews are all up on that YouTube channel. And Twitter, you can reach me at Lou W. Sitzma or at the Stephen King Podcast or at JKLM Podcast.
Yes. And Karen?
Those are all on the Twitter machine. I like the YouTubes that you just said.
Yes.
That was cute. Yeah. I can't wait to talk about Fairy Tale. I mean, I honestly, I'm dying to read it. So please visit us there on his YouTube channel and we'll be talking more Stephen King down the line too, which is awesome. But you can find me personally at Oliveria in a lot of different places on the Twitter machine, which is where I am most frequently. Feel free to give me a follow and have a chat with me.
Well, perfect. I have already pre-ordered Fairy Tale as well. So I'm hoping that will be one of the books I read while I'm on vacation. So who knows, if I get done in time, I may shoot a voicemail to you guys saying, hey,
awesome.
Yeah, that would be good. You can send us feedback at jklb5podcast@gmail.com. As Lou mentioned, we are on Twitter at jklm podcast, and I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. Thank you guys. We appreciate the support and the love. If you could, go to iTunes, rate and review us. We have not gotten enough ratings to show up yet, so we would appreciate a little love. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, listeners. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And scene.